Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Corner Office on this good old-fashioned Sunday. We got a lot to talk about today within the NBA and the NFL scheme, and even a little bit of college basketball. We're going to wrap up some stuff that we talked about last week. So we're very much looking forward to being back here with all of you guys. And yeah, let's just get right into it, I think.
Yeah, I think today's episode is going to have a lot more to do with the current headlines going on across the sporting world. And the first one that we must talk about is LeBron James passed 40,000 points last
Yes, he
night.
did.
40,000 NBA points scored
Mhm.
last night. First player to ever do it, continuing to prove that. I mean, I don't want to sound like a Glazer, like too bad, but no one ever has been able to do what he's doing at that age. So
Yeah,
that was I watched it. It was definitely fun to watch.
you're waiting. I feel like we're all kind of waiting around for when like he starts to take a dip in production. And like you kind of see it, like he's certainly not himself, like the prime version of himself, like within Miami or those later years in Cleveland, when that was probably the best LeBron you've ever seen. But like the way that he can still produce at an all-star caliber level and has continued to do so for the amount of longevity that he's been in the league for 21 years. Like he's been an all-star for 20 of those 21 years. You know what I mean?
And the only time he wasn't was his
rookie
rookie
year.
season.
Rookie year. So like the way that he has been so impressive for so long and the fact that he has finally broken the 40,000 point barrier, something that no NBA player has done before him, it's going to be incredibly hard to replicate. I think the question going forward, Jack, is do you think this record will ever be broken when he's done playing? Because I think he could get another 1,000, maybe 2,000 points, you know?
I don't see his record being broken, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. It seems to me like one of those records like the Wilt Chamberlain 100-point record,
Right.
or if you look at Tom Brady's whatever record that you'd like. You have to be so good at the
For so
highest
long.
level of competition
Yeah.
for so long in order to beat it. And it's just something that we don't see very often.
I agree.
So my question that I'm going to throw back at you is, besides the 6 rings, what arguments do you have in the GOAT debate at this point? What is the argument there to be made? Because in
I
my
don't
mind,
know.
it's very clear who the best player is. Love it or hate it.
I think it's the 6 rings thing with Jordan. Most people will argue that he had the 6 rings. He's more clutch than LeBron is basically another argument that's not
But
true.
LeBron has more clutch time points.
I agree. Look, I'm not a Jordan truther. I think Jordan is the second greatest player of all time, and I think that he is a fantastic player within his era. But I think that when LeBron broke the points record, that was it. Because most of the people who would argue for the top 3 players ever, they'd say it was Jordan, LeBron, or Kareem because of the points record. And then when LeBron broke the points record, it became Jordan and LeBron again, and Kareem was kind of out of the conversation. But that points record didn't really, matter as much for LeBron's all-time greatness status to some people. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm personally of the opinion that, LeBron played better final teams in the finals. And, he had to go through that, that Warriors dynasty, which Jordan did not match up against. Like, the dynasty of the time was the Bulls dynasty. And obviously, it's a fantastic team. He had a lot of fantastic players around him. That's not an argument. I don't think that's I don't think the help argument is a good one either. But yeah, I think it's the 6 rings thing. It's just the, 6-0 in the finals, never went to a game 7, 6 rings, was really good for so long, was unstoppable. But like, to me, LeBron is the best player that we've ever seen.
Yeah, and I agree that, yes, 6 is a greater number than 4.
Yeah.
But to me, when LeBron won his championship in the bubble, which a lot of people wrote off, however, it still is technically an NBA championship. When he won his championship in the bubble, that is to me when he became the greatest, because yes, Jordan may have 6 rings, 6 NBA championships, but he had all 6 with the same team, the same core group.
Okay.
LeBron has been to the finals with all 4 teams that he's been on. His first stint in Cleveland, they went to the finals.
Yep.
In Miami, he won 2 championships. In Cleveland, he went to the finals 3 straight years and won a championship. And then in Los Angeles, in his second season, or his first, was it his first season?
Second season.
Second season, he goes out and wins a championship. And that
Yeah.
was, to me, when he became the greatest, because his versatility shows that he is enough of a leader to do it with not 1, 2, or 3 different teams, but 4, when Jordan only did it with 1.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
I
that,
think
to me, is a huge point. But I agree with the argument that you said with the teams that he was facing in the finals.
right.
The Chicago Bulls of our era was the Golden State Warriors. Correct me if I'm wrong. So,
Yeah. I mean,
so I mean, obviously not the same kind of domination,
yeah.
but to go to, what they go
3
to,
straight finals.
six championships in 8 years. That's
Who, the
ridiculous.
Bulls?
The
We're talking about
Warriors,
the Bulls. The Warriors.
5 and 7 years.
Yeah, they went to 5 and 7. Maybe. Hold on. So 3 against Cleveland, Toronto, Boston. 5.
5 and 7 years, and they won 4
5
of
and
them,
7 years.
or 3 of. I'm sorry, they won 3 of them. So, like, comparatively, the dynasty of our time was the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan never had to go against someone who was as good as that Golden State Warriors team, and neither has anyone but LeBron, which is, like, not necessarily in his control, but at the same time, it does nonetheless add to LeBron's resume.
No, wait. The Warriors have 4 rings. 2015, 2017, 2018, 2022. That's 4.
Did they face off against the Cavs 4 times?
They might. I think they did. I think they played the Cavs 4 times, and they lost when they were 73-9.
Yeah.
So
that's 6 and
still,
8 years.
I mean, it just adds to the fact that they were a fantastic dynasty. Like, like they were
Yeah.
pretty unbeatable in those time periods. But yeah, look, I think Jordan will always be in the conversation for greatest of all time, just because of the amount of respect he garnered around the league for the time that he was in the league. So
Well,
like
and
anybody who played
he did
against
more
him,
for the league than anyone has in
I
terms
agree.
of growing it.
But also anybody in the league who played against him is going to say that he's the greatest player ever because of the way that he dominated his generation. But I really have a hard time listening to an argument that doesn't involve the fact that LeBron is now the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, has the most clutch time points in the NBA, has been to the most consecutive finals ever, has 4 rings on his finger to show for it with 3 different franchises.
4
and
MVPs,
4
5
MVPs, has gone to 20 All-Star games, been an All-NBA player for probably at least half of those seasons, if not more. It's just like he's a statistical anomaly. He can do anything on the court.
He is top 10 in every significant basketball statistic of all time.
It's absurd. It's just absurd. So
it's getting close to, at this point, anyone arguing that Wayne Gretzky is not the greatest hockey player of all time.
Yeah.
Which
So
you just can't do.
I am a believer of the fact that LeBron is the greatest of all time, and I just think that this continues to cement his case as, leaving a ridiculous legacy for whoever comes after him.
So let's transition here from one greatest of all time to another person who's cementing her legacy as the greatest of all time in her element right now. And that, of course, is Caitlin Clark, who is actually on the road right now to, as we're recording this, setting the all-time points record in NCAA history.
Yep.
And she is literally moments away from doing it. I am watching the game in the background. She's 1 point away. And in my opinion, she is the greatest college women's basketball player of all time.
Okay.
I mean, of course, there have been people in the past who have done the same thing as her, but no one has brought the same amount of growth and attention to the game because she's doing things that no one else has ever done. And
yeah. Yep.
So what does this points record of all time not only mean for her, but mean for the sport as a whole?
Well, it's kind of a crazy thing to think about, I think. Like this record that was set by Pete Maravich in the 60s with no 3-point line. It should be noted that he said it with no 3-point line. That almost got broken last season by a 5th-year senior out of Detroit Mercy. I don't remember who that kid's name was, but he was like a couple points shy of getting that record then. But It's a record that stood the test of time for multiple years and people did not think was going to be able to be broken. And Caitlin Clark has been a dominant player for so long.
She just set the record.
She just said it. That was it. What was it? A logo 3?
It was a free throw.
Okay. Look, the only reason that I disagree with one of the things that you said about Caitlin Clark being the greatest women's college basketball player of all time is that she doesn't have a ring.
Yeah. Fair enough.
She doesn't have a national championship. And I think that in order to be in that upper echelon for any college basketball player who you're going to say is one of the greats, they need to win a national championship. And I understand that, like, Iowa probably doesn't have the most fantastic pieces around her as opposed to like a Stanford women's basketball team or a
South Carolina
or UConn or, like these teams that are perennially in the top 5 and the top 10 of women's college basketball, but like, or LSU like last year. But I think that in order for her to really cement her legacy, she needs to win the NCAA tournament this year. But that being said, it is fantastic for the game of basketball that she has done this. I think we've mentioned that a couple of times, that we're very happy that, women's college basketball and women's basketball in general is getting the recognition that it deserves through Caitlin Clark, because she has been an absolute statistical anomaly and has been a great ambassador for the game for all levels.
Yeah, and she is a role model for girls who may not have kept playing basketball.
Agreed.
Which is huge for the game. We already talked about this with Sabrina Ionescu. It's just another person for girls who may not have played basketball in the past to continue with that sport and grow the game even bigger. And so I will admit I'm a little disappointed that they didn't stop the game once she set the point record. I think that they should have.
Well, did they tie? Did she tie it or did she break it?
She broke
it.
Yeah.
She broke it.
So, yes. In response to your Pistol Pete comment, there was no 3-point line, but that is one of those records that for the past 40 years, people have been like, that will never be broken.
Yeah.
She did it in 3 seasons, which is incredible. So, Yeah, I agree with your point too, that I did misspeak when I said greatest player of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Greatness is not a measurement of talent. Sure, they're correlated, but the most talented players aren't always the greatest.
I agree.
I think that she is the most talented women's basketball player or prospect that we have ever seen.
Possibly.
And I think that that is a correction that I have to make.
Okay. I hear you. Travis Scott is in attendance at this game. Just to throw it out there.
Jake from State Farm's there?
Like, the amount of stars that go to watch Caitlin Clark play basketball is something that I don't think we've ever seen. Because, oftentimes the WNBA will get support from NBA players and fans, right?
Yeah, Kevin Durant's a huge fan of the WNBA.
So was Isaiah Thomas, so was Steph, So a lot of these big name stars were big fans of the WNBA, and still are, but you can love hoops, and thus you're probably going to want to watch the WNBA, but having guys who have no real correlation to the game of basketball being in attendance at your game shows the way that you kind of
are transforming it.
Change the stigma, right? Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think that's great. I think that her getting more public recognition is good, and she has declared for the WNBA draft. She is not coming back to school. I don't know if I love that, but I think that will do a lot for the WNBA going forward. So,
I hope so, because we have seen generational players like Brittany Griner, basically every star from the UConn women's basketball team for the past 10 years. Maya Moore, they are generational basketball players. But then once they get to the WNBA, because they're not playing in college anymore and they're playing at the WNBA, for some reason their relevance just dips down.
Yeah.
Hopefully the WNBA can use Caitlin Clark to grow their brand and make people continue to be interested in this story arc that she's creating, along with the ones that each stars respectively in the WNBA are creating themselves. It's
Agreed.
Not just about Caitlin Clark.
Right.
They can use her platform as a way to engage the audience with everyone else in the league. And I think that is where their biggest stepping stone is moving forward.
100%. I agree. All
right, so let's switch over to NCAA men's basketball.
Yes.
Let's keep this brief. Just a quick close up on the conversation that we had last week about court storming. And I know that both of us in the moment were kind of talking about how it was a little blown out of proportion
Massive
and
overreaction.
something that you can't do to the game.
Yeah.
I haven't heard talks about it since that day. It seems to have come and gone. And Kyle Filipowski was right back in the action. And he had a huge night last night when Duke took down Virginia by 25 points.
Yeah, they killed him.
So what was the point of having that conversation if we were just gonna dismiss it in 2 days? Was it just a publicity stunt to have something to talk about? Because this college basketball season comparatively has been incredibly boring.
What do you
Give me
mean?
your take on that.
What do you mean this college basketball season has been incredibly boring?
I mean, in comparison to past seasons, there seems to be little to no hype around just the end stretch of this season compared to what there's been in the past.
I don't know. I think that there's a lot of excitement. Actually, there are some really good games, especially this weekend. There were a lot of great games. So I think it's out there. I think there's a lot that's going to happen, in March, which is a good sign as always. But yeah, that being said, like, I don't know if it was a publicity stunt, to be honest with you. I think that your point about finding a scapegoat for why they lost was probably true, and that probably blew it out of proportion. Like, tempers flare, especially when you lose a big game, a game on the road, and like, no one wants to be on the opposite end of a court storm, right?
Right.
But that being said, like, I think you and I both recognize the fact that, like, it's too vital to the game of college basketball to get rid of. Like, you can't get rid of the court storm, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
the fact that, I mean, we've had 2 near misses with injuries, but we still haven't had a major injury to a college basketball player. I think that, it, it's a little soft, in my opinion, to have that type of reaction and then be able to play at full capacity. Like, he was
And
throwing
have
down
21
windmill
and
dunks.
7.
Yeah,
3
like
days
he was
later,
he
throwing
was
down
fine.
windmills.
He's
He was
fine. So, like, I don't know. I think that it's not the hill that I would die on. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and especially if you're Duke, I feel like it's something that you have to go into games prepared for.
right. I agree.
Like,
I agree,
if you are
because
Duke and you lose to a team that is not ranked and you're in the top 10, they're going to storm the court every time.
Yeah,
Every single time.
You're expecting that.
You have to be expecting it. At the end of the game, you can't get caught by surprise at the fact that they break protocol and storm the court, because it's going to happen every time.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought that it was a sign of immaturity for John Shire to go up there. And again, this is our team that we're speaking condescendingly towards, but I think that it was a little foolish and irresponsible of John Shire to go up there and call for it to be banned immediately.
I agree.
Thought that it was childish.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really have much more of a take on it. I just think that, like, there are near misses and stuff like that, and people not, like, if there was a serious injury on the court storm, then you can have a real conversation about if it should be banned or not.
And it would be
But
appropriate
the fact that there wasn't, and the fact that he played, and the fact that he played well, and the fact that, like, they dominated the game and it didn't seem to really matter, it's not something to be up in arms about anymore. And in a week from now, when someone storms the court for beating Purdue or something like that, I can guarantee you that Zach Edey's not going to come out and be like, this shit's got to change. Like, we can't be doing this. You know what I mean? Like,
because they are prepared they are prepared for that moment.
Even if they're upset like that it happened or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know. There's a level of competitiveness with that, I feel like. Just like, be prepared.
Yeah.
So.
And it's an honor to be the team that has the court stormed every time you lose. It means that you are one of the best teams in the entire country.
Yeah,
but
I don't hate that.
You have to just deal with it. And it's not something that you can get rid of, because it's a tradition that has been there for decades.
Yep.
You can't get rid of it.
I agree.
A tradition that you could get rid of, that we have seen in the past few years lose value year in and year out, especially since COVID, is the NFL draft combine.
Yeah.
And it seems more and more like coaches don't really take any. A lot of head coaches don't go. A lot of owners don't go. Actually, basically every owner does not go. It just seems like it loses value year in and year out. And
agreed.
And Alex, do you think that coaches actually value your 40 time or your vertical or how many times you can bench 225? Or do you think that it's a little bit of a tradition that serves no purpose?
So I think the real conversation about the NFL draft combine we'll get to in a second. But like I think there is a lot of value in the things that you can do at the combine, but there's also a lot of value in what you do on the field. Like you can train for the combine. Everybody does it now. You know what I mean? Like everybody is a personal trainer who trains you for the NFL draft combine. It's a massive, it's a massive thing to boost your profile if you play for a mid-major school or a school that probably, wasn't in the upper echelon of NCAA football this year. And if some of these coaches haven't seen your tape or something like that, and you go out there and you perform well at the draft combine on an invite, like by all means, that is good for you. But like for some of these big name stars, it seems like they're less and less inclined to perform. You know what I mean? So like what I have an issue with personally is I'm like, okay, so if we're going to be inviting people like Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix and all these guys, and they don't want to throw at the NFL draft combine, those are spots that we could be giving to someone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
like I don't understand like the rationale behind, okay, like you've already seen my film, I don't need to throw out the draft combine. Like is that really what we're going to have going forward? Like a lot of people just opting out of it? And does that matter? Does that matter to some NFL franchise?
I don't think that I think that the most of the time for the first round picks, especially the top 15, teams know who they're going to get.
I agree.
And they have a list of 2 or 3 people that they've had since the season.
Yeah.
So I do think that for that upper echelon of players, it's unnecessary. No one is going to be wowed by how well you did on one day with no defenders compared to how much they will be by your film.
Okay.
And so for the top echelon players, I don't think that it's significant.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think that it still holds relevance in the modern era of the NFL is with the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds.
Okay.
That is because NFL teams don't really spend a lot of time searching for their low round picks. It just isn't something that happens.
Yep.
But if you post impressive numbers at the combine and you go from being undrafted to drafted in the 6th round, then you can work hard enough and find yourself on a practice squad or a roster compared to just being cut at the beginning of the season.
Agreed.
So I think that, and there are numerous players throughout the league who have been able to find a starting role in the NFL, having been drafted in the lower rounds. And I think that that is partially because of how well they performed on Combine Day. So in total, my answer is for the highest picks, I don't think that it's important. And I think that you should be able to opt in or out.
That's for every position group?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that you should be able to opt in or opt out. But I don't think that a single low projected pick guy is going to opt out of the combine. And there's a great chance for them to show their skills off.
Yeah, they have nothing to lose.
Exactly.
They have nothing to lose.
So, yes, I think it still serves a purpose for those lower rounds, but for the first and maybe the second round, no, I don't think so.
Okay. I'm just saying, like, there aren't a lot of linebackers who are opting out of the NFL combine.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But but if you are like the best defensive tackle in the country and you don't want to bench press 225 for 52 reps.
Yeah.
Like Jalen Carter, regardless of his draft combine performance last season, was still going to be a top 15 pick. And everybody knew it.
Right.
So I think that you should be given the option to opt out. But I don't think that a lot of guys would do it because it does still serve a purpose, for sure.
Okay. All right. I hear you. And with that, you think that the Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams first overall, even if he throws or he doesn't?
I don't think it matters.
You don't think it matters?
No.
Okay. I think it's an interesting topic to discuss because, like, I think the more you see people opting out of something like the combine, like, you know, it's probably I don't know. It's strange to me that like we went from everybody performs at the combine and everybody shows up and everybody tries to do things to improve their draft stock to, we have guys who opt out of it because they don't need to. And I understand that. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to hurt your stock by playing poorly at the combine. Or
but in essence it is pointless for those guys.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So they are onto something.
But like, could someone?
It's such a minute percentile
I
of
agree.
players that will not benefit by going to the draft combine, that they should have that option. But I'd say 97% of people would still show up.
But could someone like JJ McCarthy improve his stock enough to become a top 5 pick?
Absolutely. JJ McCarthy couldn't improve his stock enough to become a first round pick.
Okay. So do you are there guys, do you think the combine still holds enough value to where if you're a fringe first or second rounder, you can improve your stock to get
Absolutely,
into
yes.
one of those rounds?
Especially if you're, I think that quarterback is the most pointless out of all the position groups.
Yeah.
But if you
Like
are
at the combine, not as a position
yeah,
overall.
obviously.
Yeah.
If you are any member of the defense or a wide receiver who's incredibly fast or an offensive lineman, absolutely yes, your draft stock can boost based on your combine results.
Okay.
But for that minute percentile of players who are talented enough to not have their draft position change based on how they play, it is pointless for them to go.
I agree.
All right, let's move into our last segment. We're going to wrap it up here with a little game.
Here we go.
If you're watching this on the Instagram, make sure you drop a follow at the Corner Office Pod. Alex, I am going to ask you to blindly rank these 5 NBA centers, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 NBA centers based off of what?
Talent, whatever you want to base them off. It's not based off anything in particular. It's just their game as a whole.
Oh, their skill, their game, their accolades.
Not accolades wise. The top 5 most talented centers in the league.
In the league right now or of all time?
They're in the league right now.
Okay. I'm here.
All right, your first player, Rudy Gobert.
4. Very talented defensive player, has absolutely no offensive bag. He has really revitalized himself this season. I think he's played a lot of good basketball this far. But if we're talking about skill level, I think we're talking about offensive basketball. And Rudy Gobert just doesn't have that. But on the defensive side of the ball, he's one of the best centers in the league. So I'm going to slide him into the 4 spot.
All right, your next player is Alperen Sengun.
Ooh, interesting. I'm going to throw him into 3. I'm expecting that there are going to be some really good centers coming down the line. Alperen Sengun is one of those guys that's kind of fit from the Nikola Jokic arc. He's not super fast or athletic, but he's a very good offensive player, and he seems like he's going to be, a very big piece for this Rockets team going forward. So I'm going with him at 3.
All right, your next player, Boston Celtics player Kristaps Porzingis.
Wow. Okay. I want to leave that 1 spot open, I think. So I'm going to slide him into 2. I think Kristaps is basically the perfect modern center that you could have. He's a guy who can stretch the floor, play down low, is a really good shot blocker and defender, standing at 7'3".
Yep.
So he's got size, he's got length, and he has a really good offensive game. He can be very versatile on the ball or off the ball. And he's a guy that can go get you 20 points a night or 30 points a night if you really need him to. So I'm going to put him at the number 2 spot, leaving the number 1 spot open for a guy in that upper echelon of centers, which I don't think we've got to yet.
And I have a feeling that you're going to put him here, Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, he's number 1. He's so talented, and it really makes me upset just because, he shouldn't be as good as he is the way that he moves around. He seems like sometimes he doesn't care. But he's the most talented offensive center in the league right now. He can make anything happen. He has great vision, can pass the ball anywhere, and is probably the MVP of the league this year. So, yeah, he's the number 1.
All right, and the last player is Miles Turner.
I think I nailed that.
I think you may have nailed that too in terms of straight production. I think that you could maybe argue Sengun for Kristaps.
Yeah, possibly.
Put him in the 2, but again, he's a young player. I think you honestly may have nailed that list. And that is Jokic 1, Kristaps 2, Sengun 3, Gobert 4, and Miles Turner 5.
Yeah.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up our episode today. As always, you can find us everywhere that you find your podcasts, and you can follow us on all social media platforms at the Corner Office Pod. Thank you for listening. This has been the Corner Office, and I am Jack Byrne.
And I'm Alex Penders. Corner 3.
Corner 3.
Green FN.